There's a plate of leftovers in your refrigerator right now, and tomorrow you're going to put it in the microwave. For most people, that is harmless. But after 60, one of those foods can send you to the hospital. I have been practicing medicine for a long time, and there is a conversation I have had more times than I can count. A patient comes in, 71 years old, sharp, active, taking care of herself. She has been vomiting for 8 hours, cramping, weak, and she is certain she caught a virus from a grandchild. She did not catch anything. She ate rice. Not spoiled rice, not rice that smelled wrong or looked strange. Rice she cooked on Sunday, left on the stovetop while she watched the evening news, put in the refrigerator before bed, and reheated on Tuesday. To her, that plate looked perfectly fine. It smelled fine. It tasted fine. And that is exactly the problem I want to talk about today. Because the danger in your leftovers does not announce itself. It does not smell. It does not change color. Your eyes and your nose, the two tools you have trusted your entire life, cannot detect it. So today, I'm going to walk you through the 5 foods you need to be most careful with after 60. I will explain what actually happens inside that container, why your body handles it differently now than it did at 40, and exactly what to do instead. And at the end, I'm going to correct a myth about one very common food that people have been afraid of for years. A food that is completely safe and that too many seniors are throwing away for no reason at all. Stay with me. This one matters. Before we get to the list, I need you to understand something. Because if you do not understand this part, the rest will not stick. The same plate of food can be harmless to your 30-year-old grandson and dangerous to you. That is not an opinion. That is your physiology. 3 things change as we age. The first is your stomach acid. When you were young, your stomach was a fortress, highly acidic. Most bacteria that entered simply did not survive the trip. But stomach acid production declines with age, and it declines faster if you take medication for reflux or heartburn. And many of you do. Millions of older adults take those pills every single day. Those pills work. But they also lower the wall. Bacteria that would have died in your stomach at 40 can now walk right through. The second is your immune system. It does not fail. It slows. Scientists call this immunosenescence. Your immune cells are still there, still working. But they respond more slowly and less aggressively to a new invader. An infection that a younger body would crush in a few hours has time to establish itself in yours. And the third is your gut. Digestion slows down with age. Food spends more time in your system, which means bacteria that survived the first 2 lines of defense now get more time to multiply. Put those 3 together and you get a simple, uncomfortable truth. According to public health data, adults over 65 are hospitalized from foodborne illness at dramatically higher rates than younger adults. Not because they eat worse food, because the same food hits differently. You're not more careless than you were at 40. You are more vulnerable. And vulnerability is managed with knowledge, not with fear. So let us begin. Number 5, cooked rice. I know, it seems harmless. It is the most ordinary food in the world, and that is precisely why it is dangerous. Rice carries a bacterium called Bacillus cereus. It is not contamination. It is not poor handling at the store. It arrives in the grain from the soil where it grew, and it is present in essentially all uncooked rice on Earth. That is normal. Here is what makes it different from almost every other bacterium. Bacillus cereus forms spores. Think of a spore as a suit of armor. When conditions become hostile, say boiling water, the bacterium does not die. It seals itself inside that armor and waits. So when you cook rice, you do not kill it, you simply put it to sleep. Now here's the part I need you to hear clearly. When that rice sits out on the counter, cooling slowly, sitting at room temperature while you eat, while you clean up, while you watch television, the spores wake up. They multiply. And as they multiply, they release a toxin. And that toxin is heat stable. I want to say that again because this is the single most important sentence in this entire video. The toxin is heat stable, which means when you reheat that rice the next day, even until it is steaming hot, even in a hot pan, even until it burns your mouth, the heat kills the bacteria, but the toxin survives. It goes right through, untouched. That is why people get sick from rice that was thoroughly reheated. They did everything they thought was right. They heated it well, but heating was never going to help because the damage was done hours earlier on the counter. Symptoms usually arrive fast, vomiting within 1 to 5 hours or cramping and diarrhea within 8 to 16. In a young adult, it is a miserable day. In a 75-year-old, dehydration can set in quickly, and dehydration is what actually puts older adults in a hospital bed. So what do? You do not stop eating rice.
You do not stop
rice
eating
is good
rice.
for you. You change one habit.
Rice is good for you.
Cool it fast. The moment you're done serving, get the leftover rice into the refrigerator. Not after dinner, not after the dishes. Within 1 hour, spread it in a shallow container so it cools quickly. A deep pot of rice stays warm in the center for hours, and warm is exactly what the spores are waiting for. Refrigerate it, eat it within 24 hours. Reheat it once, and only once, until it is steaming throughout. And if that rice sat out on the counter overnight, throw it away. I do not care how it looks or how it smells. It will look perfect. Throw it away. Number 4, cooked potatoes, and in particular, the baked potato. This one surprises people, so let me explain it carefully. There's a bacterium called Clostridium botulinum. You have probably heard of it. It produces botulinum toxin, and it is one of the most potent toxins known to medicine. It lives in soil. Potatoes grow in soil, so potato skins can carry its spores. Again, this is normal, and again, cooking does not destroy those spores. Now, this bacterium has one specific requirement. It needs an environment without oxygen, and here is where a very common kitchen habit becomes a genuine hazard. When you bake a potato wrapped in aluminum foil, and then you leave it wrapped, sitting on the counter or on the back of the stove for hours, you have built exactly what that bacterium needs. A warm, moist, low oxygen chamber. That foil is not just holding heat, it is sealing out air. Under those conditions, the spores can activate and produce toxin. And like the rice, the toxin is not reliably destroyed by ordinary reheating. Botulism is rare. I want to be honest with you about that. This is not something that happens every week, but it is serious. It affects the nerves. It can cause blurred vision, drooping eyelids, difficulty swallowing and speaking, and in severe cases, difficulty breathing. This is not a stomach bug. This is a medical emergency. The fix is simple and it costs you nothing. Never leave a baked potato sitting wrapped in foil at room temperature. When it comes out of the oven, either eat it or unwrap it. Let the steam escape and refrigerate it within 2 hours. Store it in the refrigerator, unwrapped or loosely covered, never sealed tight in foil. That single change eliminates the risk entirely. If this is helping you, take 1 second and subscribe. I make a new video every morning just for you. And there are 2 foods coming up that are on almost every kitchen counter in America. Number 3, cooked leafy greens, spinach, chard, kale. And I will include beets and celery in this group as well. These are healthy foods. I want that understood before I say another word. Please keep eating them. What we are discussing is not the food, it is the storage. Leafy greens are naturally rich in nitrates. That is not a flaw. Nitrates are actually part of why these vegetables support healthy blood pressure and circulation. They are good for you. But nitrates can be converted into nitrites by bacteria. And when cooked greens are left sitting at room temperature, the bacteria on them multiply and carry out that conversion. The longer they sit warm, the more that conversion happens. Now, I'm going to be straight with you, because a lot of channels are not. You will hear people claim that reheating spinach turns it toxic or that it causes cancer. That is an exaggeration, and I will not repeat it to you. For a healthy adult, reheating properly stored spinach is not going to harm you. But here is why it still belongs on this list for us. If those greens sat out for hours before going into the refrigerator, the nitrite levels rise. And separately, and more importantly, ordinary spoilage bacteria multiply. In an older adult with reduced stomach acid and a slower immune response, that bacterial load is the real concern, not chemistry, biology. So the rule is not, never reheat spinach. The rule is, do not let it sit out. Cook it, serve it, and get the leftovers into the refrigerator within 2 hours. Eat them within a day or 2. Reheat once until hot. Done. You keep every bit of the benefit, and you take on none of the risk. And if a pot of cooked greens sat on the stove all evening and all night, same answer as the rice. let it go. Number 2, cooked mushrooms. Mushrooms are one of the most nutritionally valuable foods an older adult can eat. They are one of the very few natural food sources of vitamin D. They are rich in B vitamins and in a compound called ergothioneine, which researchers are studying with real interest for its role in protecting cells as we age. I recommend mushrooms to my patients regularly. But mushrooms have a structural problem. They are extraordinarily porous. Think of what a mushroom actually is. A dense sponge of fine fibers holding a great deal of water with an enormous internal surface area. That structure is wonderful for absorbing flavor in a pan. It is also wonderful for absorbing and harboring bacteria. Mushrooms also contain delicate proteins that begin to break down quickly once cooked. And as they degrade, they become an excellent food source for the very bacteria that landed on them. This is why cooked mushrooms spoil noticeably faster than most vegetables, and why a plate of mushrooms left on a warm stovetop is a far more hospitable environment for bacterial growth than, say, a cooked carrot. For a young person, reheating day-old mushrooms that sat out for a while usually causes nothing worse than some indigestion. For someone in their 70s with slower digestion and a reduced immune response, it can be a genuinely rough night. So, the same principle. Refrigerate cooked mushrooms within 2 hours. Within 1, if your kitchen is warm. Store them in a shallow container so they cool through quickly. Eat them within 24 hours. Reheat once until steaming hot all the way through. Cooked mushrooms that spent the night on the counter go in the bin every time, no exceptions. And number 1. This is the one almost nobody talks about, and it is the one I would most like you to change. Number 1 is oil. Specifically, cooking oil and fried food that gets heated again and again. Here's what happens. When you heat oil to a high temperature, the fat molecules begin to break down. They oxidize. And when oil is heated repeatedly, the pan of oil you used on Monday and used again on Wednesday, or the fried food you reheat in a hot skillet day after day, that break down compounds. The oil begins to form compounds that were not there before. Among them are aldehydes, which are inflammatory compounds that the body has to work to clear. Now, I'm not going to stand here and tell you that reheating your fried chicken once is going to hurt you. It will not. I want to be careful and honest with you. But I will tell you this. Chronic, low-grade inflammation is one of the central drivers of nearly every condition we fight after 60. Heart disease, stroke, cognitive decline, joint deterioration. When we talk about aging badly versus aging well, we are very often talking about inflammation. And repeatedly, reheated oil is a small, daily, entirely avoidable contribution to that fire. It is not dramatic. It will not send you to the hospital tonight. It is a slow tax paid every day for years. There is also a very simple practical warning here. Oil that has been reheated many times has a lower smoke point than fresh oil. It begins to smoke sooner, which means it degrades faster. And in a home kitchen, it is more likely to catch fire. That is a real hazard, and it is one that older adults face disproportionately. So what do I want you to do? Do not reuse frying oil over and over if it is darkened, if it smells sharp or slightly rancid. If it smokes early, let it go. Oil is inexpensive. Your arteries are not. And when you reheat fried leftovers, do not put them back into a pan of hot oil. Use the oven or an air fryer at a moderate temperature. You get the crispness back. You do not get another round of oxidation. Fresh oil every time. Reheat gently, not aggressively. Now, I promised you a correction, and I keep my promises. Chicken. There's a very persistent belief that you should never reheat chicken.
I just don't know if this is
that the
right
protein
thing
changes
to do.
and becomes dangerous. I've had patients tell me, with total sincerity, that they throw out perfectly good chicken because they heard this somewhere. It is not true. Yes, the protein structure in chicken changes when reheated. That is simply what heat does to protein. It is the same thing that happened the first time you cooked it. It is not a mechanism for harm. It does not become toxic. Reheated chicken is safe, provided you follow the same rules I have given you all the way through this video. Refrigerate it within 2 hours. Eat it within 3 or 4 days. Reheat it thoroughly to 165 degrees Fahrenheit, hot all the way to the center, not lukewarm in the middle. Do that, and chicken is one of the finest foods you can eat after 60. It is high-quality protein, Protecting your muscle mass is one of the most important things you can do to stay strong, stay steady on your feet, and stay independent. Please stop throwing away your chicken. If you forget everything else, remember these 4 rules. They protect you across every food in your kitchen. Rule 1, the 2-hour rule. Cooked food should not sit at room temperature for more than 2 hours. If your kitchen is warm, above 90 degrees, you have 1 hour, not 2. This is the single rule that would prevent the great majority of what we discussed today. Rule 2, cool it fast. Use shallow containers. A deep pot of anything stays warm in the middle for hours, and that warm center is where trouble begins. Spread it out. Let it cool through. Rule 3, reheat once and reheat properly. Take out only the portion you intend to eat. Every reheat cycle is another journey through the temperature range where bacteria thrive. And when you reheat, go all the way, steaming hot throughout. 165 degrees. Lukewarm is the worst outcome of all. Warm enough to encourage bacteria, not hot enough to kill them. Rule 4, your nose is not a laboratory. This is the hardest one to accept, and the most important. The bacteria and toxins we discussed today do not produce a smell, a color, or an off-taste. Food that will make you very ill can look and smell absolutely perfect. Trust the clock and the thermometer. Do not trust your senses. When in doubt, throw it out. A container of leftovers costs a few dollars. A hospital stay at 75 costs far more than money. It costs strength, it costs mobility, it costs weeks of your life that you do not get back. So, rice, potatoes, leafy greens, mushrooms, and reheated oil. 5 foods. Not foods to fear. Foods to respect. None of this is about eating less or eating joylessly or living in your kitchen worried about every plate. That is not a good life. And a good life is the entire point of staying healthy.
For my best girl.
It is about a small number of habits that cost you nothing and protect a great deal. Cool it fast, refrigerate it quickly, reheat it once, and reheat it properly. And when you are unsure, let it go. You have spent a lifetime taking care of other people. Now the work is to take care of yourself with the same seriousness, not out of fear, out of respect for the years ahead of you, for the people who still need you in them. I will see you tomorrow morning. Take care of yourself.
Take care of yourself.